Broncos 20 defeated the Cowboys 18 in quite a good game of rugby league, I thought, young David.
Yeah, I thought it was quite an entertaining game. To be honest, it did break down with some errors and penalties sort of getting in the way. Both teams got pretty tired at the back end, and there was some sloppy football. But as a whole, it was a very entertaining game. I don't think either team had any massive standouts except for your new man crushing Paddy Baby Carrigan. He was fantastic. Head and shoulders the best player on the field.
I've lost Guzzy now, so I need a new man in my life.
Need a new man. His defense is fantastic, running game, and the way he links that link when he plays that link role between the halves and the outside backs. He's a fantastic player, and I can see him captain on this side for a large part of his career, and possibly even captain Queensland down the track. But he's a fantastic player, and was the best player on the field in my opinion in this one.
Yep, I thought Cobbo looked good. Cobbo was up and going, dangerous
absolutely.
as usual. For the most part, in the right position as a fullback too. There was no glaring errors, so he's going to have that cover when Walsh is back. But a few destructive runs there, and I thought Ezra looked dangerous. I thought there could have been more points coming at times where Ezra he loves that little he loves a little barge over there trying to find that. Run into the opposition half because he's big enough.
He's always very busy. He's got a lot of energy when he's on the ball, and a very crisp short passing game and a short kicking game is a fact. So, yeah, he's going to be a big part of the games when they do well, of getting some points for this Brisbane side. Obviously, a big miss in with Reynolds on the sidelines. They did lack direction at different times in this team, but. In this game, but I thought they were probably pretty dominant for large parts of this game. I'm not sure what that says about the Cowboys, to be honest, considering they did play big minutes for a lot of their players in this game. You mentioned Ezra and Cobbo. I thought Palacia was quite good, and Tapau made a difference. He's definitely going to strengthen up that front row rotation for this Brisbane side. Blake Moser came on for about 15, 20 minutes and did his best impression of a seagull, flapping his arms around for every tackle, man. I was just watching him. You go into dummy half and he's sitting there flapping his arms around doing the Gutho / Moses.
It must be a hooker thing because Blake hasn't even played first grade having a whinge. He's the least hooker-looking hooker I've seen.
Yeah, big, tall, rangy fella, isn't he? Yeah, but he did have an impact pretty much as soon as he came on. There was a couple of nice little touches that he had in and around the dummy half, but yeah, they didn't get on much of a roll for him to have too much of an impact. But he did his job okay. He looks like he can defend quite well as well for a young hooker. So we'll see where that takes him. But for me, Payne Haas was really good. I thought he stepped up his workload compared to the week before. You had Ricky and even Corey Jensen was a standout as well for the Broncos.
He's not big, is he, Corey? I didn't realise he was that. He's not a big boy, is he?
No, he's not a huge guy. He's thick. He's a thick one, but he's not overly tall.
And I thought Capel did a good job of hunting Townsend for the night, both attack and defence. He
loves that job, doesn't
he? Yeah, scored a try down there, and then just was a bit of a pest for him for the time he was on the field.
Absolutely. The Cowboys, for me, their defensive line was so much slower than at any time last year. I don't know what that was, whether it was a thing where they were sitting back on purpose or they just didn't have the energy or to get up. But the speed of their defence was nothing compared to last year, and I think that was a big part of why they went so well last year, was because they were up in the face of the opposition, and it was noticeably slower for me. They looked a little bit softer in the middle of the field. I think that's got a little bit to do with Gilbert. I think they missed his defence in the middle of the field because he was fantastic for them at times last year. In the middle, by no means were they horrible, but they were just a couple of things for me that stood out in the way that they played. Did had some really nice touches. Townsend had some really nice kicks, which is obviously something they can build on through the year. Val had flashes of what he does. Val Holmes at times looks like the best player on the field and then sort of goes missing for 20 minutes, half an hour. But he'll be someone that you probably want in your Supercoach team throughout the year, as would Carrigan definitely be somebody that you want to be putting in the back row.
Ollie, do you see much of this game?
But yeah, the Cowboys are a little disappointing for me.
Well, yeah, the Cowboys, they seem sort of, I guess to your point, Barney, it seems like they were sort of a gear less than they were during games last year, and that could purely be down to it being a preseason game as well, not wanting to go all out, but they were still in it. It was, for me, probably the game of the weekend. I guess it depends on the style of game you enjoy. If not, for most people, it would have been the game before this, then the World Club Challenge. But I like seeing the back and forth here. I think Brisbane were definitely the better side overall. Patrick Carrigan, best on field. I'd say, Jensen as well really surprised me. He was up there, as well as Payne Haas. That intercept from Taulagi towards the end of the game, that was one of the most frustrating intercepts I've seen, because he grabs it and then he runs a bit and slows down. If he just, I sort of know what he was doing, because the defenders were coming in again. I don't want to bag him too much, because it's the whole hindsight thing as well. But if he just got the ball and gone for it, he might have broken I think there was one defender coming across, but he sort of stagnated a bit there. So that was one of my takeaways. That was one of the more frustrating intercepts that I think I've seen. I was just thinking in my head, just go. But he didn't. Drinkwater, I think, had a good game as well. The running game from Dearden and Townsend, I thought, was pretty good as well. In terms of a halves combination running, I think they're probably the best in the competition, nearly, where both halves do have that bit of a running game in them. But yeah, I think overall for me with the Cowboys, it was just probably that, being that one gear less than they usually are. They showed glimpses of it, but didn't really go too hard, just because it was a trial game, and they still nearly got the win out of it.
I thought both their front row were fantastic. Cotter and McLean was great. Cotter just goes and goes, and McLean, well, he's been one of the form front rowers now since last year, and he's come back just as good. And I think Tamo goes really well into that combination. He's going to play his half every week, and he won't let anyone down. He had some nice runs here, and they would say they saw what they need to see from your Nanais and Tamalolo's Nanai. Some sneaky stuff off dropouts. What about that dropout where he just dropped the ball, and how was that allowed to play on?
But you got it before it hit the ground.
Yeah,
it's all fair and lovable.
That was
he's dropped it. He was looking for the corner, and he's dropped it, and he was going to get underneath it and put it up for the wingers and the centers, and he went, "Shit, there's nobody in front of me. I'll just grubber this thing on the ground." And
it's weird.
He got it just before it hit the ground.
But I can see them. I can see them using that drop out to Nanai throughout the year to try and get him up and over the top of the front rower. Yeah. So, which is clever, but they would have seen what they saw. Look, I know you're sort of against Brisbane this year, but I'm actually saying Brisbane are going to be improvers they have to be from last year where they collapsed. But I think this felt like almost a top 4 game, I'd say, and I think it's indicative.
I think close, yeah. I think I was
not
just
a back
more
end of the year top 4 game
by the way that they fell apart last year. To be honest, to me that knocked them down, because I did have them pegged at a sort of a 6th, 7th, 8th position at the end of last year, up until that last 4 or 5 weeks, and then I just went, well, you don't deserve to be in the top 8. So, and I've carried that through to the beginning of this year. I have seen some things that have made me sort of rethink it and think that they probably are a 7th or 8th position team. But obviously, it'll depend a little bit further down the track of how they go, and injuries permitting to some of their key players. But
and they've got strikers.
Cotter was one that I did want to mention, and I didn't. He was fantastic out there, and Drinkwater, I think, was probably the Cowboys' most creative player, and created more opportunities than anybody else on the field. I thought he was close to their best, actually.
I think what we saw on Friday is what we're going to get on Saturdays. What we're going to get from him, in that creativity is going to be through Drinkwater. Townsend's kicking will be the bread and butter, and he does it well. And Dearden will be the running half, and it'd just be how well that gels throughout the year.
Yeah, the thing with me, as I mentioned, was their defensive speed was a lot slower than I noticed from large parts of last year. And I think if they don't get that back up to speed where they were last year, they may drop a few pegs.
Yep. Yeah. Any other takeaways? I think what interests me at Brisbane is their whole backline feels like strike at their best. Cobbo, a big year for Katoni.
Tony Stokes, big question marks.
He wasn't setting it on fire again, I thought. Obviously, Cobbo, Arthurs, and they've got Pereira up their sleeve, and maybe Tristan Sailor up their sleeve. So, and Ezra bigger and stronger and better for the run last year. So they'll score points. It'll be how well their fitness and their, I guess, holds up throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're pretty spot on there. And big takeaway for me out of this one was how quiet they kept Robson. The majority of this game, considering how destructive he was against pretty much everyone last year for big parts of the game. So, and I think it's one thing I did mention that I was worried that he will be targeted this year, and that's sort of an edge that defences, if they get up in his face, can sort of take it away from, that little bit of edge away from the Cowboys.
It did feel a bit of a step down with Granville playing more minutes, Neem playing more minutes, and Gazowski being there, as opposed to Tom Gilbert, Luciano, and I think Lukey's injured as well. Lukey'd be the other one.
Yeah, Lukey wasn't.
We haven't seen. So once they get all them back, maybe there's more to come. But yeah, we'll wait and see. Probably more of a wait and see on those. Anything else here? Any super coaches or anything you want to go looking for?
Not sure what Drinkwater's price is, but if he's around the 500, he could possibly be a second backup.
He's about the third highest. He's just that bit too high for me.
If he's up there at the third highest, it's probably a bit of a worry. Cotter is not going to let you down during the year. Neem's probably a little bit underpriced and someone that might make a little bit of money early because he's going to get more minutes, obviously, with Gilbert being missing this year.
Yeah.
And if you someone you want to pick and stick with for the majority of the year, is probably someone that you could go with. He's going to score tries at different times, but don't be surprised if you get a game where he only scores 20 here and there.
I've got Neno at the moment, and he's the one I'm sort of... Yeah, I know he's going to full some 80s here and there, but also I know he might get a 12 or 13 somewhere.
Probably at fullback for the first 6 weeks. Fitness and injury prevailing is probably another one that you could put in there as a second. But you can even plug him into your centre wing, I think. So he's actually named as a centre wing. Yeah. So you can pick him in either in one of your centre wing positions or at fullback. And I don't think he's going to let you down. Covering Reece Walsh there for the first 6 or 8 weeks.